Hooray for the good guys! Hey guys, it's me again, Douglas, and today I want to talk to you about good guys and bad guys. Now you see this idea all over the place in books and movies and TV shows and in the real world where it's like there are good guys and there are bad guys. And I really like the good guys, and I think we're supposed to like the good guys. But this idea of good guys and bad guys can lead to some problems, because the thing is, only God is good, period. You know, there was a guy who was talking to Jesus, and he called him good teacher. And Jesus said, why do you call me good? Only God is good. Now, Jesus is God, so Jesus is good. But the rest of us are only good to the extent that we are, following God. And the truth is that all of us make mistakes. All of us do what we shouldn't do. I was watching this movie the other day, and I got to actually go to a theater. I don't usually go to the theaters to watch movies. I usually watch them at home, but I got to actually go to the theater. It was kind of like an action movie, and there was a good guy, and he was fighting these bad guys. And if you asked 100 people, they would all know who the good guy was. You say, who's the good guy? That guy's a good guy. He's the good guy. And everybody, all those other guys are the bad guys. And most of the movie was pretty good, except there were some times where the good guy was doing really bad things. He'd do something, I'd be like, ooh, that was not good. He should not have done that. And it was really weird watching it in the theater, because as I'm thinking, oh man, he shouldn't have done that, I could hear the people in the theater who were like cheering. They're like, yeah, good job, do that thing. And there were several times in the movie where the good guy did a bad thing, but people kind of cheered for him. And it's like, if anybody else had done this thing, not just the bad guys, but like if any passerby, any regular old person on the street did one of these things, it'd be like, oh, that's the bad guy. They're a bad guy. They did this bad thing. They're clearly a bad guy. But since this guy was a good guy, when he does his thing, everybody's like, yeah, good thing. And again, this idea of good guys and bad guys, it can get us into a lot of trouble if we are not careful. Because for one thing, it can kind of oversimplify some complicated situations. Like we see this a lot in like movies about wars or like history. We'll be like, well, okay, who is the good guys and who is the bad guys? But honestly, sometimes when people or nations fight, there isn't a good guy and a bad guy. Like nobody was doing what they were supposed to be doing. But it's really easy to see two people fighting at school and be like, okay, who's the bully here? Can't be both of them. Only one person here is the bad guy. Who should I, be cheering for in this fight? And the truth is, it could have been two people who were doing things that they should not have been doing, and it led to a fight which should not have been fought. Just because there are two sides of an issue doesn't mean that one side is good guys and the other side is bad guys. And man, you see that all the time. You're like, okay, see these guys over here? They're like against us and they're doing bad things, so that must mean that we're the good guys. But literally the other side is saying the exact same thing about you and them. See how they're doing bad things? We're the good guys. Both sides think they're the good guys. But again, there's only one good guy. There's only one good person at all. There's only one God. And sometimes you'll have two sides fighting where one of them will say, God is on our side, and the other side will say, no, God is on our side. But the truth is, neither side gets to decide whose side God is on. And the answer can absolutely be neither. So for one problem, this good guy, bad guy thing can oversimplify things, and it's really easy for us to pick sides, and it's very often a bad idea. But the other thing that it can do is it can get us in this idea that whatever good guys do is good, right? Just like in the movie, like he was doing things that were bad. If we saw other people doing them, we would say, that's a bad guy. But because it's a good guy, a whole theater full of people are like, yeah, good for you, good thing. You did a good thing. But he didn't. He did a bad thing. He did several bad things. And the fact that he's the good guy doesn't make those things good. That which is good is what God says is good. Period. Every time. All the time. God says it's bad, it's bad. God says it's good, it's good. And if the quote-unquote good guys do a bad thing, that doesn't make that bad thing good. Never, ever. That's another thing that is kind of dangerous about this good guys, bad guys mentality, is that if you look at somebody and you say, that's the good guy, and that somebody isn't Jesus Christ, you will be disappointed. No one is truly righteous. No one always does what is good. Only Jesus is perfect. And that means that even your heroes, maybe even especially your heroes, can let you down. And that's one of the reasons why it's important for us to follow God, not just follow good guys, because even people who are following God, even really good people, aren't truly good. They're not perfect. God is perfect, so we need to follow him. We can follow him with other, people who are trying to follow him. But if you make your whole worldview around one person that you think is a really good guy, that's not building your life on the rock. That's building your life on sand. Nobody's perfect except for God. Nobody is worthy of worship except for God. Goodness is defined by no one's actions but God's. Goodness is defined by no one's words but God's. Goodness is just defined by God. Period. Now listen, I'm not at all saying that there's no such thing as a good guy or a bad guy, right? I'm not saying that there's no such thing as a right side and a wrong side. There have been plenty of times in history and plenty of times in stories where you have people who are on the side of righteousness, fighting people who are doing what is bad, doing what is wrong, fighting for what is wrong. But even the baddest bad guy is still loved by God. Even the best good guy fails and sins and does what is bad. And my challenge to you guys today is that you would remember that there is only one good guy, and that's Jesus Christ. There's only one God, and only God is good. My challenge is that you would remember that even bad guys are still worthy of love. They are still valued by God. And yeah, sometimes bad guys need to be stopped, but it doesn't make them less than people. And my challenge is that you would not uplift anyone higher than they ought to be. You would not look at any, quote unquote good guy and say, whatever he does is good, unless that good guy is Jesus Christ. Only God is good, and everyone else can and will let you down. Be careful when you start thinking in terms of good guys and bad guys. Only God is good.